I will not be talking about the resurrection this morning. I do that every year, and you know, uh, what came to mind when I was interacting with someone before service was, what we're going to be talking about is mostly centered within the teachings of Zen Buddhism this morning. And in a way, you could say it is resurrection, because what it is coming to a recognition of being awake in the here and the now, coming out of the tomb of dead ideas, past thinking, programming, conditioning, automatic responses that are scripted and limiting. And so we bring all of that into the practice so that we can recognize we're none of that. And as we awaken to who we are, we realize that, things are still going to be happening, and the body's still going to be doing what the body does, and good and bad are still going to show up the way they do. But we will have understood that we are this unconditioned, clear light, mirror-like awareness. So the image of the mirror, or the metaphor of the mirror, is often used in Buddhism as a way of saying that the nature of the mind is unattached to anything that appears in the experience of being aware of it. Just like the mirror is unattached to any of the images that arise. So beautiful and ugly, good and bad, sick and well, they all can come before the mirror. But the mirror doesn't change. And so the practice of Buddhism really is to turn our attention onto the qualities or the nature of the mirror and really know what the nature of the mirror is. It reminds me of a student-teacher interaction that was talked about. I think he was a Harvard college kid, and he was starting to learn the Zen way, and gets in front of the Korean Zen master Sung San, who we'll be listening to today. And he starts telling the Zen master in this one-on-one, knee-to-knee kind of an exchange, like, I really want to integrate Schopenhauer with Zen and begin to really understand how West and East can move together and integrate. And he's going on and on and on about all of these concepts and this philosophy and these techniques. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, the Korean Zen master, and they're knee-to-knee, puts his finger in his face and goes, "Who are you?" And it was like, whoa. This guy had been completely stopped. And he says, "My name's Paul." And the Zen master goes, "Paul's the name of your body. Who are you? Who were you before your name?" And this is what we pay attention to in Zen. And this is what the Zen master tells the student. He goes, "Put the books down." Something I can't really listen to. I got a stack right next to me to share with you this morning. Put the books down and study who you are before words, before thoughts ever come into being. There's this quality that we are constantly ignoring, doing our best not to pay attention to. And so in Zen, we actually allow this cultivating of this deeper self to be front and center. And as we go about doing this, we get to see everything that's in the way, that we've been ignoring, that we've been repressing, that we've been fixating and focusing on. It all comes into our face. And so as you begin to meditate, you begin to realize, what a bubbling cauldron the mind is, and how distracted and confused it is, and contradictory. And so eventually all of that will settle. It's kind of like when you pour yourself a glass of soda and you leave it on the counter for too long, all of those bubbles go away and it's flat. That's what meditation will do. Like if you sit and just allow all of the bubbles of your thoughts, your memories, your images, your fears, everything to just keep bubbling and effervescing, eventually they begin to just go away. And what's in the place of it is this quiet, open, clear, mirror-like mind. And so what we're going to be talking about this morning is a lot to do with that, but we're also going to be seeing how certain teachings within the Zen tradition also show up in terms of how do we treat something like illness, like when you're facing a health challenge, Like, what would be some insights that we can garner from, these deeper wisdom teachings when dealing with our back against the wall in some kind of a challenging or life-threatening situation. So we'll see how all of that fits and plays together. And so what we want to recognize first is this notion of Zen. It really, as it's been described, it's this transmission of mind to mind. So they basically say that it doesn't exist within language or words. It's this primordial awareness, recognizing primordial awareness. And when the student and the teacher, or when two people that are fully aware of who they are as this primordial awareness meet, there's a joining, right? This would be, a holy encounter or a divine union of Holy Spirit to Holy Spirit and other teachings like A Course in Miracles. And so what we want to recognize first and foremost then before we get into our discussion on Zen is you already are this, right? There's nothing that you're going to get in this teaching. It's going to be this clearing away so that you can recognize what's already here, what you already are. And so it's this transmission of mind to mind outside of or beyond language or words. And this is a collection of letters from Yuan Wu. He was a medieval Zen master. He died in like 1200 or 1100, sorry. And this is what Thomas Cleary says in the introduction. So very helpful to get things moving in your mind this morning. The practice of Zen consists of a collection of liberative techniques that rest on a profound analysis of human perception and conditioning. In common with the seers of the other equivalent traditions around the world, Zen adepts observe that ordinarily, people are encased in a shell of emotion-laden, conditioned perceptions that shape their motivations and limit their experience to a narrow range of standardized perspectives. Ordinarily, people reify or make real the concepts they have been unwittingly conditioned to believe in, and to project these concepts upon the world. They see them as objectively true realities out there, rather than as arbitrary cultural constructs that they really are. Thus, the Zen teachers actively worked to untie the bonds and melt the sticking points that were keeping their students' minds tied to habitual routines and conventional perceptions. So what we often talk about when we get on the subject of Buddhism is that the Buddha is a title that was given. I mentioned this last week, I believe. The title Buddha means to be awake, right? And then we ask, well, to be awake from what? And the from what are we awakening is everything you think right now. All of your names, all of your concepts, all of your meanings, even this idea of I want to get enlightened. Even these ideas that I want to be free from my suffering. These are all the things that were just described as these culturally conditioned and emotion-laden concepts that keep us within this cocoon of false thinking, like grave clothes, if you want to go back to the resurrection idea. Like we're wrapped in these gauzy-like ideas that are blinding us to what's really here and really now, which is this self-luminous, ever blissful Buddha nature. And so Zen is a liberative technique that will take whatever form necessary to cut away the gauze bandages and free us from these dead ideas so that we could resurrect in this present moment. A little bit more from the introduction. The Zen tradition, like all of Mahayana Buddhism, is invincibly optimistic about human possibilities. Our true identity, our inherent Buddha nature, can never be destroyed. It is our basic essence, and it is with us always, waiting to be activated and brought to life. The sword that kills is the sword that brings life, runs an old Zen saying. The sword of wisdom that cuts away the conditioning and contrived activities that make up our false personality is what frees us and brings our enlightened potential out into the open. Right? So we die to a version of ourselves. Right? That's really the fundamental point. Like the self that we are struggling to get enlightened, to make happy, to find the success or the fulfillment or the peace. That self that is endlessly striving is the problem, is the sleep, is the suffering. Right? So the other thing that we want to recognize, remember, is when Buddha said life is suffering, he uses the term dukkha and or dukkha in Pali. And what that really means is the center of a wheel. It's the hub of the wheel, the empty space within the wheel. And dukkha is when that hub of the wheel isn't formed correctly. So when the axle goes in, the ride is very rough and bumpy. And that's how we live our life. Like we're in a constant movement. Our life is this vehicle that is always bumping, and it's good one moment but really bad the next. And he's saying that's life. It's unsatisfying because it's an endless bumpy road of ups and downs. And what's very interesting about this whole Buddhist idea of the center of the wheel is later on, long after the Buddha's gone, they came up with this iconography called the Wheel of Life. Many of you probably have seen this, where they have all of these different concentric circles within the wheel, and holding that wheel is the god of death, Yama. And at the center of the wheel, which is really what we want to focus on here, are what the Buddhists call the three poisons. And the three poisons are in the form of a rooster, a snake, and a pig. And they're all chasing each other at the center of the wheel. Now remember, the center of the wheel in a normal, ordinary life is crooked, it's suffering. And what the Buddhist iconography is saying, the reason why it's crooked and suffering is because we are first the pig. The pig is ignorance. We don't know our original nature. We actually think we are a self that we're not. Then this self wants things, it desires things, it attaches itself to things, it lusts after things, and that's the rooster. And this same self doesn't like other things, it hates other things, it attacks other things, it goes to war to protect itself. That's the snake. So this ignorant self is driven by lust and anger, by grasping and rejecting, by attachment and aversion. And if you look at the way that your life operates, you'll begin to see that everything is in this binary code. I like some things and I don't like other things. I like being well, I don't like being sick. I like feeling peaceful, I don't like feeling agitated. It's always this endless binary, right? And it's all related to this ignorant ground, that there's a self here, seemingly, that is not aware of its true nature, right? So this is the cause or root of our suffering. So in order to be free of it, we have to address the root, which is, who am I? Just like we just had, if you came in late, you probably didn't hear this, but just like that student that had endless theories and concepts and methods was interrupted by the Zen master and said, who are you? Not your crazy thoughts, not your trying to achieve something in this world, not anything related to your body or your concepts. Who are you before your body and your concepts ever were? Right? This is again another Zen question that they say, what did your face look like before your grandparents were born. So a little bit more from Wan Wu. So this is taken from one of his letters. Put aside the crazy and false mind that has been concocting your knowledge and understanding, and make it so that nothing whatsoever is weighing on your mind. Fully take up this matter in your perfect, wondrous, inherent nature, which is fundamentally pure and quiescent. Subject and object are both forgotten, and the road of words and thoughts completely cut off. Make it so that once found, it is found forever and remains solid and unmoving. After that, you can change your step and transform your personal existence. You can say things and put forth energy without falling into the realms of the delusions of form, sensation, conception, evaluation, and consciousness. Then all the phenomena of enlightenment will appear before you in regular array. You will reach the state where everything you do while walking and sitting is all Zen. You will shed the root of birth and death and forever leave behind all that covers and binds you. You will become a free and untrammeled wayfarer without concerns. Why would you need to search the pages for someone else's dead words? Right? Again, I do get the pang of conscience here. Searching the page for someone else's dead words. In other words, when we find the true nature of ourself, we also find what is the word used as prajna, wisdom, right? We have this wisdom inherent within our nature. It's covered over by all of these concepts and beliefs and opinions and voices. But as we clear them, we discover that we've had this Dharma jewel, this Buddha wisdom within our very nature the whole time. So what I'd like to do is just take a moment, allow you to rest within the silence, find your breath. Oftentimes when we're new in meditation, we kind of get lost in the array of our thinking. But what will help you to ground is, sit tall, allow your hands to rest, maybe in one of these meditation mudras, these hand postures. Keep your spine straight and find in this flow of breath. And you might, if you're going to go with the Zen way of doing things, kind of focus on what they call the hara, which is just about 3 inches below your navel point. It's your power center. And you could just feel the breath flowing in and flowing out from the hara. Okay, just take a minute or two to relax into this space and be still. what may be helpful is, as it said, leave your front door open and your back door open. And whatever's coming through your mind, it will come through the front door and leave the back door. Don't attach to it. Don't serve it tea. Ideally, we would want to sit for at least 10 minutes, more like 30 minutes. But this is not the place to do that. But I would encourage you to do this on your own, or if you're interested in joining me starting in April for the Zen class, we will be sitting for a half hour before we bring in the teaching. As we're sitting, as was said, your thoughts will come and go, your feelings will come and go, sensations will come and go. Don't attach to them, don't identify with them, and eventually the mind begins to quiet and empty. And all of these thoughts are related to you as the body identity, you as the conditioned self. And so, as we had said at the start of this talk, what we're going to be turning our attention to now is when the body self doesn't feel its best, when it's dealing with chronic pain or suffering or illness. How does that relate to this ever-present, unconditional, quiescent awareness? Right? So we're going to see how all of this kind of plays together in these Zen teachings. This is taken from Only Don't Know, which is his teaching in a nutshell, Sung San, a Korean Zen master. He taught mostly in the 1970s and 80s. These are letters from students to the master, and the first letter in this collection is a concerned woman writing her teacher about his diabetes problems. So we'll give you a little bit of her approach, and then you'll hear his response. Dear So-and Sanim, Diana just called to tell me of your heart and diabetes problems. I am so sorry you don't feel well. I am remembering what a shock it was when we first found out that my son had diabetes and would need to take insulin. He was only 17 and his pancreas worked irregularly, so the adjustment of his insulin dosage was dependent on his activity as well as on his food. But he soon learned to anticipate his needs and learned to drink orange juice when he overestimated. I'm sure that by now you also have adjusted to your new treatment. I was sorry to miss the last big meeting. Get well soon. Love you, Marge. So here's the response. Dear Marge, thank you for your letter. How are you? I have just returned from the hospital. You worry about my body. Thank you. Now I am following the hospital's instructions, and I am just beginning to take insulin. I had taken diabetes pills for 15 years, but the doctor said that these pills damaged my heart. So I went to the hospital, took some heart medicine, and now my heart is working correctly. so my body is no problem. And then he's describing his experience within the hospital. The doctors were very interested in learning about Zen meditation as a way of helping the body heal faster. Because one of the things that he did with this medication was he speeded up what would have taken 2 or 3 months of adjusting the heart rhythm. He did it within a week. And so the doctors were really interested in seeing how there are these therapeutic effects to Zen meditation. And so he said, now many doctors like meditation because it can help to fix your body. Several doctors wanted to learn more about meditation, so they arranged to come to my hospital room, and I taught them a little about Zen. I told them that fixing your body meditation is a kind of concentration yoga meditation. It is not bad and not good, but it is not correct meditation. Right? Fixing the body meditation is not correct meditation. This kind of yoga meditation lets your body rest and become strong. Some yogis can sit in a quiet place, breathing in and out, and they can live for 100 or 1,000 years, but eventually the body will die. Correct meditation means attaining freedom from life and death. True, our bodies have life and death, but our true self has no life and no death. Right? This is the unborn. Right? Never born, never died. You exist eternally as this mirror-like awareness. In A Course in Miracles, it says you've never left your source. You've never changed. You've never fallen. We are projecting our attention into these images and ideas. We can identify with them, but in truth, we are always anchored in this still point of the here and the now. Right? Correct meditation is coming back to this awareness that we were never born and we will never die. What is born and dies isn't the self. I said that if you attain your true self, then if you die in 1 hour, in 1 day, or in 1 month, it's no problem. If you only do fixing your body meditation, you will mostly be concerned with your body. But someday, when it's time for your body to die, this meditation will not help. So, you will not believe in it. This means it is not correct meditation. If you do correct meditation, being sick sometimes is okay. Suffering sometimes is okay. Dying someday is okay. The Buddha said, if you keep a clear mind moment to moment, then you will get happiness everywhere. So in other words, back to that hub of the wheel. If we are angry or upset or sad because we're not feeling well, that makes the mind hurt. But if the body's not feeling well, that's okay. We never change. We're resting in that quiet place. And oftentimes, when we give up clutching and trying to make the body feel better, or we give up our anger over not feeling well, the body can relax. So he's saying, whatever arises, be okay. This is what is really the heartwood of Buddhism, is where you come to equanimity. You're not chasing after some things, and you're not avoiding other things. If you can come to that place within yourself where you're at the center of the wheel and it's calm, quiet, and still, everything else moves around you. Sickness and health, fortune and illness, all of these things are just appearing in the mirror. And you're none of that. So then he says, correct meditation helps you find your true way. And he says, while I was in the hospital, there was this guy next to me, a very successful guy, a businessman, wealthy, family, kids. And so the Zen master asks his bunkmate in the hospital, what's the purpose of your life? he had a good job, good family, etc. But he answers nothing. He had nothing, right? So he's in this health crisis, and none of the things that he's acquired in his life, all the successes, are not sufficient to keep him in a state of peace, equanimity, and acceptance. He said he understood nothing, but his understanding could not help him, and therefore he was suffering. Zen actually means attaining this nothing mind, but it's a different kind of nothing. It's not I'm lacking, it's I'm none of these things, right? So Zen is actually coming to a place of stability in knowing you're none of this. So how do you attain this no mind? First, you must ask, what am I? What is the purpose of my life? If you answer with words, this is only thinking. So you have to come to this direct experience. That's why in this teaching, meditation is the staple. You sit, you watch, you look, and everything starts to come up, and you get to hear all the noise and the clamor and the disturbing thoughts and the hate and all of the stuff that's bubbling below the surface, and you just keep sitting, letting it come and go, right? And then you get to this place where you know you're none of this. So that's why he says, if you don't know, then you're onto something. If you think you know who you are and what your life is about, this could be a pitfall. But the don't know mind cuts through your thinking. It's before thinking. So Zen is attaining this don't know mind. Right? And then once you have this place within yourself that you've discovered as the pure potential, this don't know mind, you can have, as he calls it, big love mind. You can be big love mind. He says you can. You can also have what does he call it? Big love mind. This is possible. Nothing mind neither appears nor disappears. So your mind is like a mirror. Then moment to moment, you can keep your correct situation. Right? And then you can be a true assistance for others. So this idea then is it's pivotal to having peace of mind, that we don't attach to whatever is coming up at the level of the body, good or bad, right? And so there's this way of teaching in the Zen tradition called koan. And koan are these mental puzzles. It's like you have an interaction between a teacher and a student, and the answer that you get oftentimes from the master is so nonsensical that you can't really make logical sense of it. But it's coming from this place prior to thought. And it can trigger that in you. So this teaching that we're talking about today is dealing with how sickness can be used as a way in to the Zen experience. So instead of running from sickness, we get to actually see that what's arising as the sickness, when seen as it truly is the gateway to Zen. The pain is the gateway. So what this investigation will do oftentimes, like say you're sitting and you're in this pain, or you're in this fear of the illness, of what's going to happen to me, what's going to happen to my family. You just keep looking at it. And as you keep investigating, let's say you move into feeling the pain, looking at the pain, it's like you just keep peeling the onion. And eventually, if you stay constant and concentrated, and you bring your attention fully into the here and the now, and you're looking at the pain, then there's really nothing there. You've gotten to the core of the onion, and there's really no pain. And you'll reach that place, right? And A Course in Miracles, he says this in one of the workbook lessons. If pain is real, God is not. So when the mind reaches the ground of being, or God, or nirvana, or Buddha, then there can't be pain there. Pain exists as an echo. And if we clear that, we come to a place where there are no echoes. There's just the stillness, right? So that's where we will investigate and realize that no matter what is coming or going, it's sunny or it's dark, there is always the light of the Buddha nature, and that is undisturbed in any circumstance. And so this is the third case in this classic collection. It's called the Blue Cliff Record. This is the main collection of koans in Zen Buddhism. And the third case is entitled Master Ma, right, Mao Tzu, is unwell. Okay, so here's another Zen master dealing with sickness. Great Master Ma was unwell. The temple superintendent asked him, "Teacher, how has your venerable health been in recent days?" The great master said, "Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha." And that's it. That's the case. That's the koan. And you sit with that. But you have to learn that sun-faced Buddha is coming from this folklore or mythology of Buddhism. And the sun-faced Buddha can live 1,800 years, very healthy, very bright. Right? The moon-faced Buddha lives just hours or minutes. So it doesn't matter if it's long life or short life. Like Sungzan said, if you're sick, it's okay. If you're suffering, it's okay. If you die, it's okay. If you've gotten rid of the 3 poisons in your mind, you realize you're none of this. Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. It's light outside, great. It's dark outside, great. But do you see what comes up when you sit with that in your ordinary thinking? But I like when it's sunny. I don't like when it's dark. I have attachment to when it's sunny. I have aversion when it's dark. I don't like being in pain. I don't like feeling sick. We read from Sungsan a few weeks ago, and he says, every time you say I, you have a problem. So again, Master Ma has this response to his being unwell. And then there is the commentary, right? Now we read from, if you want a little education in Zen, we read from the Zen letters of Wan Wu. Wan Wu compiled the Blue Cliff Record. So these are now Wan Wu's words. The great Master Ma was unwell. So the temple superintendent asked him, "Teacher, how has your venerable health been in recent days?" The great master replied, "Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha." If the patriarchal teachers had not dealt with others on the basis of the fundamental matter, how could we have the shining light of this path? If you know what this public case comes down to, then, you walk alone through the red sky. Now, the commentary is often just as confusing and puzzling as the case. But what he means by walking through the red sky is you come out of the cocoon of false thinking and ideology and attraction and aversion. You're in that limitless space here and now. You're free. You've cut away the grave clothes. You walk through the red sky. If you don't know where it comes down to, time and again you'll lose the way before the withered tree cliff. In other words, you look at the withered tree and you look at the cliff, which is the end of your life, and you're going to go into panic. The withered tree is your suffering, your sickness, your chronic pain, your trouble, your divorce, your financial concerns. That's the withered tree. And the cliff is, I'm not going to survive this life. Nobody gets out of here alive. So whenever you're confronting your mortality and your problem or your struggle or your challenge, you're going to lose the way. It'll trip you up. If you are somebody in your own right, in other words, when you really start to pick up this clarity of yourself, when you get here, you must have the ability to drive off the plowman's ox and to snatch away the hungry man's food before you will see how great Master Ma helps people. So this is also puzzling. So when you really start to wake up and know yourself, it doesn't matter if you're feeling strong or you're feeling weak. If you really know yourself, these bodily states won't affect you. Right? This is what he's saying. So when Master Ma spoke like this, where was his meaning? Some say he meant, fix some stomach medicine and bring me a bowl of it. What grasp has this got on it? Having gotten to this point, how would you attain tranquility? This is why it is said, the single road of transcendence has not been transmitted by 1,000 sages. Students trouble themselves with forms like monkeys grasping at reflections. Your mind is the mirror. There's a part of the mind that's like a monkey mind, and it's trying to grasp what's being reflected in your nature. Health, success, love, romance. You're trying to grasp these things, and they're empty. They're mirages. He's saying, don't be like that monkey. You know how they catch monkeys? I know they did this, or maybe still do it in Indonesia. It's pretty horrible because monkey brains were a sign of, if you ate monkey brains, it would make you fertile. And so in Indonesia, they would catch monkeys. And the way that they would do that is they would, and you know this, they would put a cage where the monkey can see the fruit or the coconut or something, and it goes in to grab it. And it can't pull out the coconut or the fruit because the hole's too small. And all it has to do is drop the fruit and pull its hand out. And it's free. But the monkey doesn't think this way. The monkey is, this is mine. I want this. And I can't get it out. I can't have it, but I want it. And I won't let it go. I want to be free of pain. I want to have romance. I want to have success. And what we don't realize is this is how we get caught. If we are able to drop whatever it is that we hate or want, we can come to a place of equanimity and realize this was never going to make me happy anyway. So as we do this, as we sit in our practice, you'll begin to feel, even in your body, these parts of the body that have been gripped for so long. And they'll start to relax, like these bubbles just start popping. And you begin to just, coming back, resting, stilling. And then things become beautiful. Like what once looked like a world of suffering, we're told, becomes something quite extraordinary and luminous and blissful. And so in the last leg of our journey this morning, we're going to be looking at another Mahayana scripture. This is the holy teaching of Vimalakirti. And Vimalakirti, um, as we're told in this story, is an awakened being, right? He's Buddha, right? He knows his Buddha nature. But he's also a householder, right? He's a prominent man in the city of ancient India. And he actually allows himself to be sick. So this is the whole story. The whole story centers around Vimalakirti being sick. And being sick in this story is a teaching aid. He's a Buddha. He doesn't have to be sick. But his sickness is the teaching. And so it draws Buddha's disciples and the Bodhisattva, these illuminated beings, to come to visit Vimalakirti because he's sick and they're going to pay their respects. And before they get into the teaching proper, the sutra, this scripture, opens up. The first chapter is called Purification of the Buddha Field, which is your perception, right? This is the Buddha field, what you're seeing, smelling, tasting, touching, right? And what's interesting about this preamble to the story of Vimalakirti is one of the Buddha's disciples is sitting in this audience as he hears that this Buddha field, which is really the way that our universe seems to appear, is always reflecting the nature of the mind of the Bodhisattva who generated this Buddha field. And so Subhuti, the disciple of the Buddha, I'm sorry, it's not Subhuti this time, it's Shariputra. He looks at the world and he says, there must have been something wrong with the Buddha's mind when he generated this field of perception, because it's so screwed up. This world is, full of suffering, disease, and death. And so the Buddha knows Sariputra's thought. And this is what he says to Shariputra. What do you think, Shariputra? Is it because the sun and moon are impure that those blind from birth do not see them? Right? Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. Buddha's always shining. Do we see it? We're blind from birth. How are we blind? We're wrapped in the gauze of all of these opinions, all of these ideas, all of these theories, all of these concepts, all of these desires, all of these fears. We're wrapped in them. So we don't see the sun or the moon. The Buddha, knowing telepathically, Shariputra replied, "No, Lord, it's not so. The fault lies with those blind from birth and not with the sun and moon." The Buddha declared, in the same way, Shariputra, the fact that some living beings do not behold the splendid display of virtues of the Buddha field are due to their own ignorance. It's not the fault of the Buddha. The Buddha field is pure, but you don't see it. So we're back to the hub of the wheel. We think we're the false self, and we're driven by lust and anger, attachment and aversion. And because we have all of these plans and this agenda for our life and for the lives of those that we love, we are in a dream-like state or a trance-like state. We have to be still, let go, drop the fruit, get out of the trap, and allow what is to show itself. And then we will realize we're the mirror. How glorious. So as all of this is being said by the Buddha to Shariputra, one of the creator gods, this is how the Mahayana scriptures are. Everybody from all over the universe comes and hangs out for the talk. So you have one of the creator gods that's there in attendance. He says to Shariputra, "Reverend Shariputra, don't say that the Buddha field is impure. The Buddha field is pure. I see the splendid expanse of the Buddha field. It's so splendorous that the highest deities are in awe of it." And then Shariputra says to the creator god Brahma, "As for me, I see this great earth with its highs and lows, its thorns, its precipices, its peaks, and its abysses, as if it were entirely filled with ordure, with pain, with struggle, with suffering. It's vile. This world is vile." That's what Shariputra says. Right? Sun-faced Buddha, moon-faced Buddha. So then Brahma says, the fact that you see such a Buddha field as this, as if it were so impure, is a sure sign that there are highs and lows in your mind. And that your positive thought in regard to the Buddha knowledge is not pure. Those whose minds are impartial toward all living beings and whose positive thoughts towards the knowledge of the Buddha are pure will see this field of perception as totally pure. Nothing is good or bad, but thinking makes it so. So again, these are words that hopefully carry enough charge for you to kind of go back into yourself. That the highs and lows that we are experiencing in our life are concocted or conjured by our thinking. And we project that onto the world, and we think it's out there. So it doesn't matter if we're healthy or well, we're the Buddha. And that will never change. But we're not paying attention to that. We're concerned with the highs and lows because we don't believe we're Buddha. We believe we're the pig. And it's chasing and avoiding. It wants and it hates. And he says, this is the sickness. These are the poisons. That's what's really keeping us ill. Right? And then finally here, thank you for indulging me for so long. Sickness arises from total involvement in the process of misunderstanding from beginningless time. So he's just saying sickness is the pig. Sickness is the primordial ignorance at the center of yourself. This I am the body. I am the conditioned self. I am my beliefs. I am my opinions. This is all the voice of the pig. He's saying this is the origin moment of sickness. What Jesus in the Course will call the unholy instant. This is where it all begins. I am this conditioned self. And from beginningless time it arises. It arises from the passions that result from unreal mental constructions, and hence ultimately nothing is perceived which can be said to be sick. Right? When you really start to look and you get to who you really are, you'll discover there is no sickness. There is no death. We're at the resurrection. This is the resurrection. Discovering you were never sick. You never left the source of the eternal. Your mind is nirvana. Therefore, thinking I should not adhere to any self and I should rest in the knowledge is the root of illness. He should abandon the conception of himself as a personality. What is the elimination of this sickness? It's the elimination of egoism and possessiveness. What is the elimination of egoism and possessiveness? It's the freedom from dualism. Right, so now they're going to give you a list of instructions here, and it's going to take us all the way home, and it's going to take us through the hub of the wheel. So egoism is the pig, and it's attracted and it hates its own mental constructions. Everything that you love and hate are your mental constructions. Isn't that wild? You don't hate anything that's a fact out there. And in A Course in Miracles, Jesus tells us we're never angry at a fact. We're angry at our interpretation. So we're upset by our own mental constructions. So he's saying then, what's the elimination of sickness? It's the elimination of egoism and this attachment. What is the elimination of egoism and attachment? It's the freedom from thinking there's two-ness. That's a big one. When you really sit in your meditation, this idea that there's an inside and an outside and a self and an other actually disappears. That's joyful. What is freedom from two-ness? It's the absence of involvement with either the external or the internal. So you're not going to get fluffed up or pissed off at what's going on out there, and you're not going to get fluffed up or pissed off at what's going on in here. It's the same thing. They don't really exist as we see them, so why attach or get upset about it? Your internal state is just as unreal as the external state. I must bring it to a close. So all of this comes to a place of equanimity. So what is equanimity? It's the equality of everything from self to liberation. Because both self and liberation are void. How can both be void? They're just verbal designations. So let me put it in other language that could be helpful. In A Course in Miracles, he says, everything that you think you see in this church, on that street, in this room, is meaningless, void. And everything you think is meaningless. What you see and what you think is void. And void, or meaninglessness, is also meaningless. And when you can let everything that you think and think you see go, you'll come closer and closer to that mirror. There's no self, no other, no inside, no outside, no health, no sickness, no life, nor death. This is it. Find it. Discover it. Know it. Yeah? That's all I got. Blue bag's going to go around. If you're joining online, you can click the link. We thank you for that. And I will say it one more time. If you are interested in the Zen class, you can go on my website, living-acim.com, and you can find information there. Bill? Thank you. Blessing the offering. And we just charge it with the intention that all beings may find true wisdom and true happiness, and so it is. All right, my friends, let's rise and seal the deal. And so as we come into this present moment, everything can be Zen. So we bring ourselves to this realization moment by moment that we are this perfect, quiescent, luminous awareness. And in this recognition, the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is. Amen. Thank you all so very much. Tomorrow night, Course in Miracles. Have a very happy Easter. Love you guys. Thank you.